Hello everybody, and I'm excited for today's episode. I've been waiting since these were announced back in last November of 2016 to get my hands on one of these, and it finally happened. And that is the DJI Goggles. So you know what that means. It's time for a tech check. So let's dig right in, shall we? As you open the box, you're greeted with the eyepiece. It has two 1080p full HD screens tucked inside of there. Similar to the Samsung Gear VR, it's got a little touch panel that works kind of like the touch panel on your laptop here on the side to navigate the menus. The power button. On the opposite side, a vent, and there's actually a fan in there. It's pretty quiet though. And under here you find the connection for headphones, micro HDMI, and an SD card slot. On the bottom here you find a back button, a function button, the sync button, and this little dial which actually adjusts the pupillary distance side to side of those lenses. Let's dig a little deeper, and we find the headset. On the back side here, this big bump contains the battery. It can last up to 6 hours. You'll see this dial here. This dial adjusts the headband for your head size. On the bottom here, you'll find a micro SD card slot, and this is how you charge it, which is actually really cool. Since it's micro SD, that means you can field charge it in your vehicle or using a booster battery. And this funny little piece right here is where you connect the eyepiece. It might be tempting to wear it like a baseball cap, but the way it's intended to be worn is the back piece here needs to be down just under that little funny bump in your skull where your spine and your skull attach. The headband and headpiece attach just like this and click into place. Once attached, you have the headpiece on your head and the eyepiece here, and you can flip it up and down on a hinge. And yes, you really look this stupid. And with it flipped up, the weight's a little weird and it feels kind of funny on your head. So probably wouldn't want to walk around all day like this. But flip down, it distributes the weight quite a bit well. I've worn this for a few hours during flights, and so far it hasn't been that uncomfortable. Great Scott! In the very bottom of the box, you'll also find this 3-amp USB charger and this little black box here, which contains a cable clip, micro USB cable, and an HDMI to micro HDMI cable, and that is really awesome. So let's fire this thing up and go over the menus.
The power button works a lot like other DJI products. Tap it to see the battery level, in this case 75%, and to turn it on, tap it, and then push and hold, and it will start up. The best way I've found to put it on is position the eyepiece first, then flip down the headband and adjust it as necessary. On the bottom left, you'll see your horizontal speed, vertical speed, distance, and altitude. On the bottom is your shooting info: ISO, shutter speed, aperture, exposure, and live view status. Dead center is your obstacle avoidance information. Top right is flight status and alerts. And top right, GPS, connection status, touchpad lock, flight time, drone battery, and headset battery. Let's take a look at the menus. With the camera icon highlighted, horizontally swipe the touchpad. Settings, video record, take a picture. Tap the touchpad to execute or select. Let's go back to camera settings. Here you can control photo, video, and exposure. Here you have access to aspect ratio, white balance, color balance, grid overlay, and picture format. Let's look at video options. Here we have video size, format, white balance and color grading, and NTSC or PAL. Here you can select video resolution, but that could change depending on your live view status. We'll talk about that later. Let's take a peek at exposure settings. Auto, it will automatically choose the settings it figures is best. And manual mode will give you full control over ISO, shutter, aperture, and exposure value. If you're uncertain what those are and what they do, leave it on auto, or feel free to study up on photography and cinematography. To back out of the menus, hit the back button we looked at earlier. Let's head up to control settings. Swipe the control pad up. Main settings. In here you can control linking, brightness, volume, IMU calibration, and reset. You can also control head tracking sensitivity, where the gimbal or the drone follows your head movements. You can initiate automatic takeoff, HDMI input settings, recorded playback, and live view. Let's take a look at that. Smooth mode allows 720p, 60 frames per second video feed, and the drone cannot shoot in 4K in this mode. Full HD mode gives you a 1080p playback. It's what I use when I'm flying for fun, but you cannot record in Ultra HD in this mode, only 1080. Normal mode allows full 4K recording and gives you a 720p video feedback. With 2 fingers, swipe down to open the FPV menu. Full screen mode removes all text and menus and just gives you a full screen video feed. Head tracking flight mode allows you to control the drone with your head movements. Pretty slick. Head tracking gimbal allows you to control the camera tilt and angle with just your head movement. Camera forward or downward allows you to tilt the camera straight down. This mode rotates your image from horizontal to vertical. If we head up here to flight modes, we can activate active track, tap fly, gesture mode, and all the other autonomous flight modes.
Perhaps one of the funnest and coolest features of this thing is gimbal head tracking mode. You can control the camera with your head movements while still flying the drone with your hands. This could be incredibly useful in cinematic shooting because it allows you completely independent control of the camera and the drone at the same time with only one person. It would take a lot of practice, but this could really open up some awesome functionality for that. So that's a quick overview of the DJI goggles and what you can and can't do and all the menus. This thing is a hell of a lot of fun, and I'm going to be doing a full-on review after I spent a couple weeks playing around with this thing. That was just a quick overview of the setup and all the different menu options, and thank you for watching. If you found any of this information useful, please hook me up with a big old thumbs up. If you want to make sure you don't miss any of my future videos, and I've always got plenty more in the pipe, click that fancy logo over there to subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.